Anybody that I coach will tell you the same thing. It's not just about real estate. You got to coach the whole person. So you got to understand their background, where they came from, what their goals are, what drives them, what holds them back, how are they motivated. You got to understand these things.
One of my friends, I was actually talking to him, I was like, you need to connect with Gordon because he's like, in my mind, a visionary creator. He's the kind of individual that you speak with and he can help you clarify your vision and your purpose to the point where you know what your plan needs to be. And majority of small businesses fail for the lack of not having a business plan, right? So that's so crucial for people who want to organize a team, is to be very crystal clear on that plan. Can you share some of the fundamentals for people who are listening to this, some tools that they can use to get there?
Yeah. First of all, you gave me a really big compliment because I appreciate you recognizing, that is my approach. What I find is that so many people that are trying to build teams, they unnecessarily complicate the process. Okay. It doesn't have to be that difficult. The bottom line is, okay, once I put the infrastructure together, what is the infrastructure? It is my independent contractor agreement. It is my CRM that I'm going to use to run the team. Okay. It is my back office software. Okay. It's the lead sources that I'm going to use to provide for my team. So once I get the foundation or the infrastructure built, then it's simply about investing in people.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I've got to go out and I've got to find the people that I want to invest in because I'm going to put X number of dollars into those people every month, counting on getting a larger return back. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to recruit and I'm going to bring these people in. I'm going to personally train them and then I'm going to support them. The training is ongoing. I do a team meeting from 11 to 12, 5 days a week for my team in the office. Everybody meets in the office in one training room. And so I keep it simple. And I think that's the biggest problem. As I think I mentioned at our conference, KIRO, I think the reason that people complicate it is because of the large amount of money that's there.
Yeah.
And people, it's like when I take on a new client and I say, okay, this is what we can accomplish. Most of the time their mind goes, wow, that is more than I ever thought I could do. And then what we do is we think back to, okay, anybody who makes that amount of money must have a really complicated, complex, busy life.
Yeah. Right.
And so what happens is then they make that a reality by complicating and busying themselves as opposed to finding a way to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And the simpler that you keep it, the faster that you can grow. Also, I'm going to tell you this, the simpler you can keep it, the easier it is to avoid overwhelm. Okay. And that's one of the biggest things that holds teams back is overwhelm. In other words, how much can you mentally handle before you say, stop. That's enough. I'm spinning out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keep things simple and you won't spin out of control so easily.
Yeah. One of the stories I want you to share is the story of Brett in Temple, Arizona. I don't know if that's Temple or if that's the university that's in Temple. His name is Kurt. He owns the 3.
Kurt Stenson.
Yep.
In Tucson. Yeah.
Yep. And that was an amazing story because you could see how, if you have a clear vision, whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. So if you could share that, that'd be great.
So Kurt Stenson's a special client. I've literally coached him virtually from the first day I started coaching, realtors 27 years ago. Previously worked for another organization, and we would coach for a few years, and then the leader of that organization would say, okay, break it up. You've been with him too long. Go somewhere. You got to go with somebody else. And his business would go down. And so he'd say, no, I got to have Gordon back. He'd come back on my schedule. His business goes back up again. This happened like 3 times. So finally he said, listen, you either let me coach with Gordon or I am out of your program, period. So, well, guess what? Okay, you got what you want. So we got on a call and Kurt was just burned out. He was bored with the business. Okay. And he said, I don't know what to do. I just feel like I'm going through the motions. So I said, all right, we're going to play a game. Because Kurt's an expressive personality. He loves to play games. I said, for the first 2 hours of your prospecting, you're putting food on the table. You're doing your bread and butter prospecting. However, the 3rd hour, I called it landing the whale. Okay. For the 3rd hour, we're going to have fun. We're going to go after the multi-million-dollar expired. We're going to go after the big land deal. We're going to go after the big commercial sale. We're going to go after the whopping deals.
Yeah.
And so he loved it. And literally, I think it was, if it wasn't the first week, it was very shortly thereafter we started this. He got a hold of a guy that had a huge tract of land. And basically, to make a long story short, he brokered it to one of the builder developers in the area for multi-million dollars.
Yeah.
And then wound up, that led to another land deal, another land deal, another land deal. And he went from $90,000 in income in 1 year to $2 million the next year.
Wow.
Just from one idea.
Yeah.
And I give credit to Kurt because he's the one that had to, if all I had was an idea. He was the one that had to put it to work.
Yeah.
And he did it really well.
And then Kurt and Gordon were nice enough to share some of the competitions they would play. Can you share some of those? It was actually pretty impressive.
Again, Kurt's short attention span, gets bored real easy. And so he had an off month, and I said, all right, I'm going to challenge you. And we're going to play a game. It's called 30 on 30. And here's the deal. You've got to take 30 listings in 30 days. Well, some people I could say that to, and they, yeah, right. Okay, fine. And they wouldn't take it seriously. But Kurt, not only does he like to have fun, he's highly competitive. And he's highly competitive with himself. And so he knew that I was going to hold him accountable to it. And he just knew, okay, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So anyway, 30 on 30. And I want to say by the end of that first 30 days, he had taken like 34 listings, which is more than he'd ever taken his entire life in 1 month.
Yeah.
And so, all right, game's over. What are we going to do next? I said, okay, now it's 90 on 90. 90 listings in 90 days. And again, he exceeded the 90, 92, 93, something like that.
Wow.
Over a 3-month period of time. And again, his business went through the roof and got him revved back up again.
Yeah, I love that.
I think the important lesson there is, without knowing him, it's just, I'm probably at a spot in my business now too, where, you spend so much time mastering the repetitious boredom that you tend to just get set in your ways, and it just becomes, it's not exciting anymore. Right. And you get complacent because you've probably, like you said, took 30 listings in 30 days. You're sitting on some good money, and you don't have that same drive that you do, when you first started.
True. The only thing I challenge you to think about is this too. Think about the quote again, where the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. So you first have to make them, you're bringing up the idea, then you have to make them believe that it's possible. As a team leader, 19 agents on the roster, you have to first and foremost bring an idea to them. Hey, if you do this transaction or these many, this is the life that you can have. But then you have to make them believe that that's possible. Now that's what separates, sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, but I was just going to say that separates great team leaders from, everybody else.
Right. One of the biggest challenges, and I'm going to say also the most fun, it's kind of like if I said to you guys, okay, we're going to do a visualization exercise together.
I love this one. Yep.
All right. And we're going to visualize life on Mars. We're going to visualize ourselves living on Mars. We can't do that. Not effectively, we can't. Why? Because we have no clue what Mars is like. We have no clue what it's like. We know what we've read and seen on TV and all this stuff, but we don't know. Well, so when I challenge people, I said, okay, you need to start visualizing yourself at the next level where you want to be. The challenge is, if they don't know what it looks like, how can you visualize it? So what I'm constantly working with them on is creating more exposure. Okay, you've got to get out there and you've got to start seeing what life looks like. You start talking to people who are living the life that you want to live. Okay, and find out what it's like. What's the good, what's the bad, what's the ups, what's the downs, how did you get there, what are the mistakes you made? Kind of like what you guys do with your lightning round. Just ask a bunch of questions, okay? Because you've got to start gaining clarity. If you're going to look forward into a goal or a life that you want to create, but you have no idea what it looks like, then how can you effectively do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got to continue. So I encourage my team to read constantly. Every single day, I send them something we use a group text called GroupMe. Most people are probably familiar with it. And that's the primary way that I communicate with my team is through GroupMe. And every day I will post a video, podcast, something motivational, inspirational every day. And the goal is to motivate them, to inspire them, but also to stretch their mind and start thinking bigger. Because the clearer that you are as to where you want to go, KIRO, you brought this up a moment ago. The clearer that you are as to where you want to go, the easier it is to get there.
Yeah.
Most people, when they're setting goals and when they're making plans, they're making vague plans. Like, all right, if I want to go from New Jersey to Tucson, Arizona, it's like saying, all right, I just need to drive southwest.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you do. Maybe you're going to hit Tucson and maybe you're going to hit San Diego. No, you got to be specific. What's the path look like? And the clearer that you get, the more likely you're going to be to accomplish that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. I think everybody has a different idea of what that, thinking bigger and what leveling up is to them, right? Mm-hmm. Like some people will say, hey, all I want to do, I just, my idea of success is getting a Porsche. Other people would say my idea of success is making sure that, my wife doesn't have to work and that, I've paid off my house. So what are some ways you work with your team to figure out what motivates each of them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, I spend a lot of individual time with them. I believe that for me to do my job as a leader, it's more than just real estate. Anybody that I coach will tell you the same thing. It's not just about real estate. You got to coach the whole person.
Yeah.
So you got to understand their background, where they came from. Okay. What their goals are, what drives them, what holds them back, how are they motivated? You got to understand these things. And so I spend individual time with each person on my team to try to learn what they want, what their hot buttons are, what their limitations are, what's holding them back. The better that I can understand that person, the more effectively I can coach and train that person. Again, that's what I love. I mean, I love trying to figure people out so that I know just what button to push that's going to help move them forward.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, you're starting to realize why Gordon is the Ted Lasso of real estate, because I think it was Tony Robbins who said, if you want to motivate people, you have to find out what's motivating them. And that's essentially it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, as you've heard before, we can't motivate anybody. All I can do is give them information that they can use to then motivate themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, you can give them the idea that essentially conceiving it in their mind, you're giving it to them as a picture, and then you're giving them the belief in themselves that they can achieve it. And then from there, they're able to make it actually work.
Yeah.
I love that.